And we want to say, likewise, that we have a tremendous appreciation for the work you've done for the district and the recommendations you guys have been able to give to us over the years and the diligence with which you've looked at this issue. We have tremendous appreciation for your work. Thank you.
Sag Harbor right now, so she's stuck out there and doing that. So all that.
No.
Anyway, we had met in May, and we had gone through our report. The report is dated June 30th. So following that, we touched on some other things and finished up our testing. We looked at two areas this year. When we first started, we did a overall risk assessment, and then over the years that have followed, we would take direction from the board with regard to areas that they would like us to look at, or if there's something that come up in a particular year with regard to an employee or something else, we would then go and address those issues. So that's kind of how we direct where we're going from year to year. We had been asked to look into capital projects, in particular the planning, the budgeting, the filing related to that. And we have started with looking at all of the policies surrounding capital projects. One of the comments that we did have, particularly because you were going out for a bond vote, and I have to congratulate you because I know that was just this past
Tuesday.
Yes, thank you.
Tuesday.
Yes.
Congratulations that it passed.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
think in our report we say we're talking, you will be, and it's nice to know that it's over and it's passed. Congratulations. We did note that in light of that, some of the policies had been, I think the earliest one was 2016 that it had been reviewed and revised, and that doesn't mean anything. Some of them were much older than that, but a policy can last forever. The question for the all that we had made in our recommendation that they had been reviewed in a long time, that have been reviewed and if necessary changed.
And I did like your recommendation that even if you didn't change it, that we could indicate that it had been reviewed.
Just shows transparency and that you're up to date, because a lot of times we look at policies and we looked at it, and it says 2002, not here in North Shore, but 2002, and it almost looks like it hasn't been touched since then.
Yeah.
So in case it's reviewed. We also looked at some of the filings, and we looked into certain projects to see how they were reported, the documents that surround that, as well as the filings for those capital projects. And at the time that we had booked initially in May, a lot of those were still pending. They were old projects or projects that were completed, and the pending filings had to be done. And we're very pleased that following our report in May, that many of those have been approved and filed, and we found no areas where the district was remiss in their filing and meeting all the deadlines with regard to capital projects. The other area that we had looked into dealt with the extra classroom activity funds. And as we had mentioned back in May, we had obtained contracts with regard to chaperones, obtained listings of the extra classroom advisor appointments, reviewed the details of receipts and expenditures, and obtained all the attendance records for the chaperones, and examined payroll records. We did have several comments in looking through that. One of the first, in looking at the extra classroom, this ski club was an area in particular where they had a number of overnight trips. And we had met with the central treasurers as well as the advisors and discussed it. And while we didn't find areas where they weren't meeting the guidelines, there were areas where we felt maybe the building principal should be more active in signing on to the things and getting a budget and looking over so there's more pre-warning as to when these trips are taken. There were no trips that weren't approved or that individuals track, in all the, well, and again, very common with extra classroom, the payment of expenses by advisors as their own profit, using a credit card, and then they seek reimbursement. It's easier, it's, you didn't find any wrongdoing in terms of them using their credit card and paying the expenses themselves, but it kind of circumvents the whole process of approval, the central treasurer, because now she's paying a bill that they've already received the goods for and it's already done. Well, they don't have to follow the same procurement policies that the district does. The whole purpose of the extra classroom is a learning tool for the students, and when they're purchasing things on a credit card or ordering things to make it easier for a particular club or activity, the students aren't as involved as they need to be. And I've spoken in the past where the extra classroom activities, that is their main focus. They're not interested in the track club or the chess club or the photography or yearbook. When New York State looks at it, all they're interested in are the students learning to manage these monies themselves and do what they do. Unfortunately, the students aren't as interested in managing the money, and even the advisors are more interested in bringing to those students something that they love and can share with them. So the paperwork part of it sometimes gets a little.
With the truck club and the out-of-pocket expenses, the reimbursement, how much money are we talking?
I don't have that, but
Okay.
I can follow up with you. I don't have that.
I was just wondering about the scale and scope that we were talking about.
I would say with the track club, it's a greater scale than, say, photography or other, where they're just buying supplies, paper,
Right.
things like that. The majority of the track deals with going on trips, going on meets and things like that, where the expenses tend to be higher, whether it be stopping to cover food for the children on the way back as part of what they're doing. You tend to see higher amounts in that case, but I don't offhand have an exact figure.
Okay, sorry, I,
Disclosure, just for an example, I'm the sixth grade parent rep for middle school, so I got the snacks for the beach field trip. I went to BJ's, I have all my receipts and all of $20 minutes at $300.
Yes.
I mean, that's not an extra class group, but it's still.
But it
you
is
know,
similar to
But
those.
it's
it is
similar,
those
right,
types of,
those things.
And sometimes the parents do it, and sometimes the advisor says, you know what, I'm not gonna put that on the parent. I'll go this Saturday and I'll pick up all the snacks for the Greenfield trip or something else,
Mhm.
and they're laying out $300, and that is so
Because
perfect
I'm
example.
lovely and highlight all the amounts and add it up on a sheet and initial it. We know not everybody.
No, and it is those types of things that kind of get lost in the extra classrooms in terms of the documentation.
Right.
That we tend to comment on, but again, the North Shore School District is, far exceeds what I see in other districts, and anything that I comment here, I can tell you is more the norm than not, so not to.
absolutely. I wouldn't say no.
It is a good place. We also looked into payroll and personnel in a prior year, and we were very pleased. All of our recommendations with regard to payroll and personnel, and they were minor, had to do with using a checklist, or better use of a checklist that was implemented, and the other was with people from the regions. There was steps taken to do that. Both civil service employees and teachers are required to have an oath of allegiance in their file, or at least proof that they pledged allegiance, and that is a requirement, and sometimes those get lost, and we had a comment, and that had also been implemented and corrected. I spoke about the bill of leaders. I don't know if there were specific questions with regard
And there was
to-
still your recommendation too about, the checklist when employees leave the district,
That
right?
had not been, at the time that we completed our work, that still had not been addressed. I believe the individual was aware of it, and has been addressed, since we issued the report. I've no reason to believe it hasn't, but it is a personnel matter.
Okay. Committee members and trustees, please.
First of all, thank you very much for the session. It was very well prepared and it was very well detailed. Commend you for that. I appreciate that. One of the questions we have is, you mentioned in page 9, the minority districts, probably the one district, one district, is marching or taking the long-term plans. My question to you is generally, in your scope, how long do you put this in writing?
In terms of, not as often as we would like. Because truly, as an internal auditor, you're more interested in the I don't even want to call it criticism. You're more interested in what needs to be fixed. And it's not common to go out and say, this is what's good. Because that's not really what we're hired, in essence, to do. But, in that particular instance, and in many, I want to say most, in many instances, here at North Shore, we use the information for the things that are done here as a talking point at other districts and at other clients, because many times what we hear is, oh, we couldn't do that, it's gonna take too much time. We couldn't do that, it's, that, who's gonna do that? And they have more people in the office than you have in your office, but yet you do it and they don't. And sometimes it's just a matter of getting it done and making it part of your regular routine, and then all of a sudden these things that seem so difficult aren't. So when we come to things like this, the case you mentioned, yes, that there are good things to be said. It's easy to say them out loud, but we put in writing, particularly here.
Thank you.
On this second chart, just to confirm, this is a living document, so we
Yes.
and it is
Mm.
for the
Yes.
Thank you. That's a good point, Ray.
Your items are low and medium. And we always let people know that to be medium is not a bad thing. There are certain aspects that you wouldn't want to make that medium low because the cost to do it would be so great. There is a balance between the cost of the internal control and not. And there have been times, we've had issues where we were called in to look at, deposit of money or other things over the years, where there are issues on here that have been high, and they are now medium or low. So it is something that is fluid, it changes. The lows are low, the mediums are, in my eyes, low also, because again, you wouldn't wanna see some of those mediums become low, because it would be very cost prohibitive and not worth the effort to get it there. Some of them are medium just because of the number of transactions that flow through a particular area, and trying to see if I have one here that's a good example, but and I'll think of petty cash. Petty cash would typically be something that, is small, so it's always gonna be a little bit small. Unless you had no controls over petty cash, it would be a low. Cash management, revenues, expenditures, some of those things you tend to see as medium at best, because the number of transactions and the things that could go wrong with them. But yes, that is a question.
the page where the coach made the page on credit card, is it possible some of the charges may incur because you just didn't have enough time to get the check from the central office, or you felt the president had to, in order to ensure that the integrity of the trip was not compromised? Is that possible?
Is it possible that some of them were?
Yes.
Yes. Is it possible that, probably, it's possible that a lot of them are. But it's also, my feeling is, and maybe all, to be fair, but there are instances where we see that happening, and if you put a little more effort into it, maybe it would be, you could write a check and follow the proper channels through the extra classroom. I understand that using that reimbursement in that fashion is again, not wrong, but if it's used too much, it's circumventing it and taking away from the student.
Because Ray makes a good point, like it's well known that school districts have a time period. I'm not saying North Shore, I'm saying across the country, there is a time period between a purchase order and a check. And I've heard anecdotally that North Shore actually pays relatively quickly, but do we happen to know, like, our turnaround time between getting an invoice and, like, once you get an invoice, against a purchase order we already have, how long it takes us to produce a check? If we don't know, it's not a big deal, I'm just
I know.
curious.
We have a 2-week check run,
Right,
and our internal, written policy, every invoice that comes in within that 2 weeks is processed. We don't hold back anything. So what he's talking about is really from the extra
Yes.
classroom activity.
uh-huh,
It's not from the.
a
general
regular,
fund.
yeah, but,
Those ones that come to us, in fact, there were instances where we gave him an advance, we give an advance, go cash the check, or the check, when you come back, submit the receipts, we review the receipts to make sure everything pertains to the children. But when they have to deal with, the checks are processed at the high school, not in central office.
uh-huh,
And sometimes it's easier for them that way.
Yes.
mm-hmm,
And I can say, again, not specific to North Shore, but you'll know that every December, a particular club or activity takes the same trip. And even in the elementary school, maybe they go to a Broadway play or they do something, and they do that same trip every December. And yet, every year, the extra classroom person is being told, we need a check tomorrow's the trip. And that is more common than not. So I can't say that it wasn't such a short period of time that he had to use his own credit card, but sometimes planning, you can avoid some of those instances that otherwise might have resulted in the use of a credit card. So,
I was going to say, so you know whether there will be the internal auditor. Thank you very much for your years of service to the school district. Very appreciated. I just have to ask you one last question. Your decision to resign was based upon your firm's own internal decision to go in a different direction, and not due to any type of history you may have had with the North Shore Central School District.
if all of our clients were like the North Shore Central School District, I would be sitting here and saying, in October, we'll be looking at, no, it had nothing to do with that. It's a family practice. It was started by my father, in 1980. He was a partner with, KPMG Warwick, retired in 1980 and started his own practice. I was an arts and design major. 2 years into school, I became an accounting major. I joke that I did that because I would have a job when I got out and I was lazy. Little did I know, 30 years later, I would still be doing it. But,
we all have these,
my
yes.
mother, who's a partner also, is in her 80s now, and she's kind of had enough. And my sister and I talked for many years about the opportunities and what would we do if we did something different. And certain opportunities came around, and we said, if not now, when? We have not landed on our feet in any place solid. It was we're on an adventure, and decided that we would take this, roll the dice, and faith in God, and move forward and see where it takes us. So that's why also it's bittersweet, because we loved what we did, and we loved, obviously I can talk about this for hours. So we loved what we did, and where it had nothing to do with the North Shore School District at all. Most of it had nothing to do with any of our clients. It was just something that we came to a point and felt it, and it came rather quickly in terms of the decision to do it. But something we talked about for 10 years. And
Wow.
we'll see where it is. It's an adventure. I hope my path crosses with each and every one of you at some point again, somewhere. But thank you very much for everything.
One of our
No,
mottos
thank you.
at North Shore is discovering your dreams.
Yeah,
So
so-
we wish
I
you the
mean,
best.
We do. It makes perfect sense. I come from a family business background, as does Trustee Ledmar. But thank you. Yeah, I think you've done a tremendous service. Yeah, absolutely. It's not done yet. But we are,
Just one. I was just curious, is there, I know that I just read that the audit committee decides what areas of focus that you focus. Is there any requirements in terms of a rotational, like, whatever you looked at this year, you don't look at for another 2 years or year or whatever, or is that collectively determined, or is that tracked anywhere?
all that.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yes, we do. And we do have a rotation, and we do look at certain things every 2 years, every 3 years,
Okay.
every
or if, right, your risk table, if we were out of line, somewhere in the risk table, we were high when we weren't supposed to be, that'd be it. And so, going forward, since we had to hire the new internal auditors, they are doing their initial assessment, which they will bring to us, and they'll bring it to us, and they will absolutely have recommendations based on the rotation, based on the risk. But even from this report, you'll see that however many months ago when we last met, they had their recommendations, and then we also added, we're getting ready to do a bond, can we look at the capital spending, which I don't think you would have thought, you didn't have any reason to believe it was an issue.
Necessarily an issue or on our, this is something we need to look at next, but that came from.
But we can absolutely suggest, ask, and then we can all discuss that too. And I was gonna say on the capital thing that I was really gratified that you found that we were in compliance with our policies and that we were filing everything on time. But I think what was really helpful to the board from your report was that really detailed and nuanced description of the additional ways that the business office tracks the financials against specific projects, because that's not something that we routinely see. And so I'm going to say enjoyed reading that description of how we keep everything in its lane, so to speak. So thank you for that incredibly coherent description there. And thank you, Olivia, for doing the things that allowed the internal auditors to give us an incredibly coherent description of how we track capital spending against the funding mechanism, against the project, against the NICID project numbers, et cetera. It was really interesting.
It's really a team effort.
I'm
The business
sure.
office is really, everybody works together.
They do. And you find that, and I probably sound like a broken record player to some, but you did, the first time you'll hear from me.
Yeah, but
Not to them. The interesting thing about North Shore, and I'll say this, and this is, you know, I give, it's the tone at the top of the board. I give so much to Olivia, credit, absolutely, because you go into places and people either fall in line fall in line to how everybody else is. You walk into a place and you say, wow, everybody in this place is efficient, good, enjoy their work, they're a team builder, they're team players, they're all these different things. And that's not because you just got lucky and picked all these different people. What happens is when you pick the right people and you get enough of the right people, that sour apple out there that doesn't fit only stays so long before they move on to someplace else. And they move, the next 3 people may move on, but eventually somebody that fits the culture of where they're working stays. And that's how I think the business office at North Shore has become as great as it is.
This is. Well, you made that point too, that you were looking at payroll and a key person had been out of the office, and yet nonetheless, everything got done.
America goes to every
Still
agency
in
that-
contact, and that's impressive too. Thank you, Olivia.
Their new internal auditors, like as you mentioned, are working on a initial risk assessment, and they'll come up and maybe find things that they would like to look further into, or start with a cycle of going deeper into other areas, as we did. That's how the process started, and then it just evolved. So,
It's really, there has to, maybe there is, other than people showing up to meetings, but a way to communicate that message out there that, you know, when you have a large budget such as we have, and we just did the big bond, and people get all nutty about it, like, but it's really well run by outside internal auditors, outside external auditors. That's a really positive message, and it speaks volumes for everyone.
Yes.
It really does, and I
And-
think the public doesn't quite get that.
And somehow posting our audit reports to our website doesn't quite
No, it
quite do it. I'm baffled by that myself,
it's
but
exciting on the website as it is in a handout, you know,
Right.
without hearing all the verbiage that goes with it.
But we'll do, but in all
I was gonna say,
seriousness,
and to Katie's point, is that when people talk about administrative expenses, they think about that there are a bunch of administrators, but our administrative expenses are our business office and are the people who are doing payroll and the people that are doing all of these checks and balances that make things get paid on time to the right person.
Checks going out willy-nilly, no thank you.
No, right, and so that is our administrative expense is, I mean, it happens to have the name administrative, so it sounds like administrators, but it is this.
The only thing I was going to say about getting the message out there is one of the things we did a couple of years ago was to bring non-board members from the community onto this committee. So feel free to share what you learned here.
Just walk around town. Right. Because it's odd, it doesn't come up every day when you're just out with people, right?
Unless you're with Sarah.
But I think a lot of people know that things are out there anyway, and that's why things like your bond passes and your budget pass and your, because there is a comfort and a confidence in the board and the district. So, who you vote. So there are good things that happen.
And thank you for the role you've played in that. This very consistent piece of looking at what we're doing, making the recommendations, letting us know how we've done on the recommendations. That's,
I shared with Olivia, as I thought, I don't want to hold you up anymore, but, when I first started here, I bumped into Olivia when I first started, and I was actually the claims auditor, previously. We were both the claims and the internal auditor, they said you can't be both, they split that role up, and we
Rosalind.
went one way, and, these came on to the claims auditor, but I bumped into, Olivia in Home Depot once, with my 2-year-old son, after I had been, here for a year or two. And, tonight I was talking to him, and he's getting his college acceptances and all these things.
oh, well, congratulations,
He's
Steve.
picking the most expensive school as his choice. And I'm telling you, that's my first choice. But it's been a long time, and that's why there is such a fondness here for North Shore.
And I can't help but to mention this. The kid was so chatty. I followed them because I saw Jamie and I knew he would be an engineer right from that day.
Apparently, she didn't even know it was me. She was listening to this child talk and talk and talk. And then I turned around and she said, "Oh my goodness."
Oh, that's
And,
funny.
But
It was very
it's
fun.
been a very good, long run, and I will miss you all.
Jamie, we want
The North Shore School District.
Same, Jamie.
to thank you very
Same.
much.
Yes, cross again.
Many thanks. All good wishes on your future endeavors.
Happy the holidays and happy New Year, and we'll be in touch. We'll see each other.
You can come visit us anytime. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yes, I'm gonna actually open the door and tell people that they're welcome because, we might wanna say the pledge for yourself. Happy holidays, thank you. Yay. All right. If you would all kindly join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. We apologize for the relatively small delay with our internal audit committee meeting. Betty, if you would kindly let the record reflect that the board met in executive session to consider matters regarding proposed pending or current litigation and collective negotiations pursuant to the civil service law. Trustees, we will go to action item number 3, which is the approval of the minutes. I'll ask for a motion to approve both November 21 and December 2.
Motion.
Is there a second? Comments? All in favor? Thank you. Next, the report of the superintendent, Dr.
Okay,
DiLorenzo.
so I have a very short report tonight. And I just wanted to thank the board and the community for the support of our bond. The referendum was held on Tuesday, and the vote was 925 yes to 512 no. That's about 65% of the vote went in favor of the bond, and I wanted to say thank you very much. It was 2 years of hard work and research, and I think that we have a plan that is really exciting both in the short term and the long term, and it's really an exciting time for us. So I'm going to be anxious to get back to the instructional business of of our meat and potatoes, and so I'm excited to do that, and then we will start the planning work for construction that could be starting to some extent as soon as this summer. So thank you all very much.
Terrific.
Other than that, we will jump right into the budget, and
That's true. Come January, that's it.
so appreciate it.
I want to add my thanks. The work leading up to the bond vote was an astonishing amount of work in terms of the planning, the number crunching, but also just the sheer amount of meetings and time from the forums and the tours. So thank you to every person who came to a forum, who helped us conduct a tour. Thank you for your time, but thank you in particular,
Well, you're
Dr.
welcome.
Giarrizzo. Thank you, Ms. Watsy, and of course, John. Thank you very much for all of your time and effort. It's so much of it can't be seen by everyone in the community, but it was, I'm not sure how to characterize it. I was going hundreds of hours, thousands of hours. It was a tremendous lift over a tremendous amount of time, and everyone played a huge role in it. So thank you for all of your hard work. We appreciate it, and
You're welcome.
we all see it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Report of the SGO.
Hi, thank you for having us. So, in the past 2 weeks, what Chris and I have been working on in the SGO. So first, we're working with Mr. Doherty and the guidance office to help run a forum with North Shore alumni and juniors and seniors. So we're going to help curate questions, and I think we're going to help run ask questions at the forums,
and then we're also going to adopt a family to, all the people in SGO are going to put money together, and we're going to go on Saturday and buy presents for a family who really can't, for the holidays, for families who really can't afford to buy presents for their children. So that's what we're doing as well.
That's great. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you for
guys.
coming. We appreciate the report. Thank you. And that brings us with
Okay.
great rapidity to our major report of the evening and discussion. This is the district's report on student achievement K through 12 on subjects related to STEAM.
Technology, STEAM, and fine and performing arts. So thank you. So Chris and your team, why don't you come come take your places. We're doing a little, the K-12 student achievement report is new in that we have not done a K-12 student achievement report in the past. We have done an elementary report, a middle school report, and a high school report. And we've spent a lot of time looking at achievement data through that lens, and we've been shifting over a little, not away from the import of achievement data, but also to the import of the process skills that are so important to what we call a North Shore education. And so what we've asked, Chris and I have asked our team to do is think about student achievement from a K-12 perspective through the lens of STEAM and the fine and performing arts. And so you will not get so I'm going to let you do your thing and not tell you what you're going to get. But I'm going to turn this over to Chris, and I'm going to say thank you very much for putting together something that is very innovative and unique. You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. D'Orizzo, trustees, for the time and the space to talk about achievement in STEAM, namely science, mathematics, fine and performing arts, and STEM. K through 12 this evening. And I want to thank also Dr. Titone, Mr. Menchel, Ms. Rodriguez, Ms. DiMiola, and Dr. Smythe, a truly innovative team who helped put this presentation and the report that you received this week together. I just wanted to say from the outset, in terms of seeing the presentation, it might be a little easier for anybody on this side, Trustee Commander, maybe Trustee Galati, to take my seat and seats over there. So thank you again. Whenever we discuss teaching and learning at North Shore, either with teachers, administrators, or in observing classrooms and talking to students directly, we ask a simple question. That question is, what do students walk out with that they did not walk in with? It's another way of asking what students achieved as a result of our teaching and learning. And this is the question that we should be asking our entire system. In preparing for this report, we realized that there are many ways in which we can define achievement. It's certainly a multifaceted concept, and we tried to honor all of those ways. We could focus on achievement at a single point in time. And in the report you received, you can see that our performance on standardized exams in math and science indicate that we have achieved, in most cases, some of the best results on record in 2019 in both proficiency and mastery. We could also focus on the achievement of our students as compared to other similar districts. And in the report, we prepared a comprehensive comparison and ranking of standardized test results. And in several assessments and Regents exams in math and science, we rank as #1 in proficiency and amongst the top 5 in mastery rates, as compared with similar districts. A list that includes Manhasset, Roslyn, Great Neck, Garden City, East Williston, Syosset, and Jericho. There are 3 more components that we defined, and in some ways, those last 3 are responsible for the first 2, and we want to talk at length about those. We could focus on achievement over time and look at how students within North Shore have moved or grown as a result of their time in the system, and also how the performance of our system itself has grown. How we move students, or rather help them move in a particular area, is the essence of our work. So a couple of points on that. According to a nationwide assessment, an analysis project initiated and sponsored by Stanford University, North Shore has the highest learning rate in Nassau County. We are technically tied with Garden City and Merrick, but this was a metric that was developed through Stanford University that looked at students' growth from one year to the next from standardized tests, so growth over time, and we have a learning rate as they quantify it of 20%. And this is a good metric to compare us to other schools that have a similar level of resources and affluence, and it shows that our neighboring districts, those listed before, we actually outperform in terms of how much students grow over time. We see a tremendous growth within North Shore in the level of proficiency and mastery over time in all assessments from 2013 to 2019, and that is in our report that we prepared for you. But that being said, mastery continues to be, although we've progressed in that area, that continues to be an area that we need to explore and improve upon. We can also focus on the equitable achievement and participation of our different groups of students and how they are performing. And while I'm happy to report that we are closing gaps in different subgroup performance, we do need to continue improving gaps in mastery for students with disabilities and students from low-income families. And those are two areas that we will continue to focus on. In this report that was shared with you this week, these 4 components of achievement were analyzed in all of the courses in the district in STEM, science, mathematics, and fine and performing arts. And one thing in preparing the report with the directors was just the sheer amount of data, but also the continuing need to look at the data that we collect and find that data that might not have been provided to you. For example, in the area of participation in state assessments, I think we need to continue to look for metrics to measure internally how students are growing from one year to the next because of participation rates. In our report this year, we also wanted to focus on a 5th area dimension of achievement, and that's what our director team, STEAM director team, will talk to you about this evening, the process of learning. It is possible, for example, that students could obtain mastery on all standardized exams that they take at North Shore or any school, and then not be able to transfer that learning to new contexts, novel problems, other subjects, or other opportunities outside of school, or to opportunities to create, innovate, or solve in their lives ahead. We believe that the transfer of learning is a critical component of achievement that is often overlooked. We believe that how students learn and how we design that learning make the critical difference. By embedding thinking and problem solving into how students learn, science, mathematics, STEM, and fine and performing arts at North Shore allows them to use their learning in authentic ways in the real world and beyond paper and pencil assessments. And so we've often heard of the cry of leaving no child left behind. And I often asked, okay, well, if no child's left behind and everybody's on the bus, where's that bus going? And that's the question that we're trying to answer. And so as a poetic side effect, we also believe that the focus on transfer to new problems, to authentic context, actually helps increase mastery rates on standardized achievement. To illustrate the process of learning in science, mathematics, and fine and performing arts and STEM this evening, we will provide you with a virtual learning walk through the medium of Twitter and the voices, questions, thoughts, and solutions of our students. You received access to the Twitter page yesterday, and one thing that we realized in preparing is that Twitter is a good tool for individual viewing, but not for presenting. So you are seeing the same information on a Google Slides presentation, but it is the same information that is in that Twitter feed. And we hope that this will give you a clear sense of our process achievement and our need to, and also our continual need to work in this area as well. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Smythe.
Our approaches to teaching in math, science, and STEAM at the elementary level are rooted in authentic exploration. This exploration supports deep and impactful learning in the disciplines, as well as the growth of our students as thinkers and problem solvers. Across the grade levels in math, students are immersed in meaningful problem solving through which they construct their understanding of concepts and facility with skills. So the problem solving provides the avenue through which they develop conceptual understanding and facility with skills. Let me provide you with an example. Let me take you into the classroom of our youngest learners, our kindergarten students. Here are our kindergarten students exploring the concept of quantity while they develop deep foundational number sense. Now let's take a look at a 5th grade classroom. These 5th grade problem solvers are developing their understanding of fractional concepts before they learn a procedure, so they really understand what they're doing. Now we'll transition our attention to science. We have transitioned to the powerful next generation science standards. In these standards, students learn their content while they develop their understanding of concepts, but they do this while they are immersed in the science and engineering practices. So students are asking questions, planning and carrying out investigations, constructing explanations, and engaging in argument from evidence. So let's take a look at a second grade classroom. These students, as you look at the images, are developing their understanding of the properties of matter, and they're also exploring and investigating physical and chemical changes. Now we'll take a look at a fifth grade example. These students are capitalizing on the iterative nature of the design process. They are constructing a closed, self-sustaining ecosystem. They are using the engineering design process while applying all of their learning about ecosystems and the transfer of energy and matter. Start that over. What happened here? Sorry. As we look at elementary STEAM, our students across the grade levels have assured experiences in which they explore and apply with increasing levels of complexity the engineering design process. They also learn computational thinking. So here is an example of our kindergarten experiences. Students are designing a shovel to solve a particular problem. They learn about shovels, they research shovels, they design their own prototypes, and then they test their prototypes and do that in an iterative process so that they're solving the problem. Next, we see some images of our students developing their computational thinking. In this tweet, you see images of students involved in coding, robotics, and electronics. As a result of our partnership with FIRST, 2 full grade levels of our students participate in the FIRST LEGO League Challenge, for LEGO League Junior Challenge. This is an international challenge that involves robotics and engineering design. Finally, in addition to the assured experiences that we provide for students, students have the opportunity to explore STEAM concepts through opportunities such as recess clubs. Amy will now provide a window into how this work continues at the secondary level.
Thanks to the STEAM team at the elementary level, students arrive at the middle school with strong foundations in engineering, coding, and robotics. Students continue exploring these areas through rich and purposeful learning experiences in our 612 Technology Department. One current focus of our Technology Department is to strengthen the through lines of curriculum and instruction so that learning is well articulated K through 12. As Carol was describing, one critical component of STEAM education is the engineering and design process. As students learn through the lens of an engineer, they practice and deepen their understanding of fundamental concepts, such as the iterative nature of the design process, and that the purpose and core of the design process is identifying and solving problems. As 6th graders, we can see how this concept takes shape in a project where students are charged with building a stool using only cardboard and wood glue. On the left, you'll see a student with her prototype, and on the right, you'll hear a student describe his process.
So what problems did you face when you guys were building your school?
The biggest problem we face is that we have already come up with a design that we're going to get to predicting at the bottom, but then on the last 2 days of some of the work, he had to completely redesign it by adding these here and here, the bottom, we added and cutting out more of them, but on the top for extra structure. But of course, we had to decorate.
In the same project, students identify unique problems, such as needing chairs in the library, and produce unique designs to address those purposes. As students advance to the high school level, a similar engineering challenge becomes increasingly sophisticated, with a wider array of materials and tools at their disposal. This student engineered an adjustable wood stool to solve the problem of wanting a single seat to accommodate the varying table heights within his classroom. The design process is so deeply ingrained in his thinking at this point that when we spoke about his project, his focus was on what future iterations of the chair could look like and how he might engineer for even greater stability and comfort. Students also access excellent design and engineering opportunities in an increasingly thriving robotics program. Through a partnership with FIRST, we now have curricular opportunities at the middle level with FIRST LEGO League as an assured experience in Tech 6, as well as elective and club opportunities throughout the middle school. At the high school this year, we have a new full-year elective course based on the FIRST Tech Challenge curriculum. And the FIRST Robotics Club represents the highest level of sophistication with robotics. Through these experiences, our students are enjoying a stronger pathway to deep learning about engineering through robotics. Our secondary math department continues to partner with our elementary colleagues in developing our coordinated approach to math instruction. Our instructional philosophy is rooted in growing our students as problem solvers and outlines specific research-based instructional techniques that all K-12 teachers have been studying and implementing in order to engage students in powerful, consistent learning experiences across the student's entire time that they are in our care as math learners. A common lesson structure across the grade levels ensures that, for example, all students are engaged in generating their own ideas through open-ended exploratory tasks, or later on, consolidating new learning by responding specifically to specifically crafted journal prompts. Think for a moment to see if you can relate to the way most of us learn math, which consisted largely of following the correct steps of a procedure until we could execute it without mistakes. Contrast that with the way math learning is approached now, through open-ended exploratory tasks frequently possessing more than one correct response and requiring students to collaborate, communicate, and problem solve. Sometimes exploratory tasks entail providing students with information and charging them with determining what questions might be able to be asked with this information. Here we see how a learning community tackles this challenge in an algebra class. As learning begins to take shape, another crucial element of a math lesson is a journaling opportunity. Teachers at every grade level routinely provide students the opportunity to consolidate their thinking through a prompt that is specifically designed for the stage of learning the students happen to be at. Here are some examples of prompts that require students to describe patterns and behaviors. And here are some that ask students to think creatively. This school system has fully committed and with great and deliberate depth and care and coordinated our approach to developing students as thinkers and problem solvers. To further describe how this looks through the lens of science, Mr. Menchel will walk us through some science classrooms.
Thank you. So, let me get rid of that music. 1 second. Nice. That's kind of good.
I told you Steve is a musician.
Yeah, but Peter, Peter's, that was
performing
your
arts,
son's
Scott.
composition, wasn't it, Peter?
Pardon me?
Wasn't that your son's composition, or no? No, Surprise. One of the areas we're most proud of in the science department is really our performance on constructive response in any in-class type of assessment as well as on standard Regents and AP and IB exams. Our students are very strong at explaining their reasoning. And this is not always easy to do. As good as we've been, we're finding that the implementation and articulation of the next generation science standard is making us even stronger. And I'd like to kind of take you through that and explain why we believe that to be so. NGSS usually starts with a phenomenon. Here we see a phenomenon taking place in a chemistry classroom. Basically, we'll show a molecular polarity of a liquid streaming and a charged rod. In one case, I'm sure Mr. Galati can explain this better than me, but in one case you can see the stream is bending due to the contact or the rod. In the other case, the liquid continues to fall straight, and then the teacher simply leaves the video with just, what is liquid 1 and liquid 2. How would I get back to thank you. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. The next step after exposure to the phenomenon is really forming questions based on that phenomenon. And you'll see these cards in many classrooms, 6 through 12, actually K through 12. The blue cards here represent the practices of NGSS, and these green cards represent the cross-cutting concepts. Now, cross-cutting concepts are exactly what they say they are. They're concepts that extend between disciplines. But what's really cool is that we've been using them as categories for questions. You can see cause and effect, structure and function. Really, questions that live in that area really answer a question of how does it work. And we're very good at those questions. Humans in general, when I say we, I mean humans in general, are very good at asking cause and effect and structure and function questions. What we want to do is we want to get our students and our teachers moving up the ladder in rigor of questions. We want them to not just ask how does it work, but what do you notice? What are the patterns? And then ultimately, what happens in the system? So the analysis of nothing living in a vacuum, but being part of a larger system and the stability of the system, the energy and the matter in the system. If we get our students to ask more questions in that area, it's going to lead to better investigations. Obviously, better questions will lead to better answers. Here's an example in 6th grade of a student kind of cut and paste project where they categorize the different cross-cutting concepts, and they use this to investigate, in this case, a Newton's cradle device as a phenomenon. You could see the prompt paper over here, and these 6th grade students are trying to ask questions in all different categories based on the phenomenon. And what we're finding is really now, we're first starting to hear, since we've implemented this probably within the last 2-3 years, is the high school teachers are really starting to see the effects of the work that the middle school has been doing. And I'm constantly hearing from them, I can't believe how good these kids are getting at asking questions. The next step would be to model. You want to investigate before you've asked a question, you want to answer that question. Well, before you just jump in and try and answer it, let's start modeling it. Models can be of the 3-dimensional kind. This would be for phases of the moon. There is a sun that got cut off here, down here. But this is one way to investigate why we see phases of the moon, why there are eclipses. Another way would be more of a 2-dimensional model. The chalk markers on the desks are becoming very popular. They're really fantastic, and they clean up nicely, so that's good. But here we see a student, a group of students trying to make sense out of why we have eclipses. After the modeling and the questioning, the students now know what they're trying to answer, and this is where you get more of your typical science, what you would imagine. The test tubes come out, the beakers come out, and students begin to investigate to find answers to their questions. Here we see in a integrated science class, students investigating the strength of a spaghetti bridge as they add more mass to a cup. And here we see in a physics class, students investigating Newton's third law using balloons on a string. And then once data is collected, it's time to get the calculators out and start making sense of the data. You've collected your evidence. Now what you want to do is you want to make a claim. And so students are working together here to come up with claims based on the evidence that they researched. Here we see 2 students whiteboarding it, most likely to share with the rest of the class as they circle around after a given amount of time. This would be in a physics class as well. This is a claim evidence reasoning form. This is from a 6th grade classroom. And the claim evidence reasoning is a really good way of organizing student thinking. You want to constantly present evidence for your claims, and then the hardest part is probably adding reasoning at the end as to why this happened. And reasoning is difficult because it used to not really be addressed that much. You used to collect data and then just make a claim and prove your claim either true or false. But to really ask the student, you know, why, what's your reasoning behind why this is happening, is a whole nother dimension that really adds to the experience. This could even contribute to different types of assessments. This is a lab practicum that was given. Simply ask the question, how much mass is inside of me? And this is a balanced force problem as students, I believe that's Sam Scordo there actually, as students work together to try and solve that. And then finally, once you have your claim, your evidence, your reasoning, you want to present it. Here we see a science research board, and I'm really proud of our science research program. It's really growing both in number and in achievements, and you know, we're really excited to see the continued work of Dr. Mordechai and all her students. And also we can present work just in class. And then finally, the Science Awareness Day in June is a great day when the kindergartners visit the high school, and the IB students kind of give them their experiences from the year and get them excited about science. And I can't think of a better way of sharing and communicating than with fine performing arts. So I will turn it over to Dahlia.
So before I share the fine and performing arts tweets, I would like to provide some context for learning in the arts. Can you hear me? Good. Inherent in the act of creating are opportunities for students to develop their thinking and problem-solving skills. Imagining, planning, observing, experimenting, reflecting, and revising, and of course creating, are processes that are evident in the work that our students, artists, musicians, dancers, actors, and theater technicians engage in. Authentic engagement in the arts requires a continuous refinement of all these forms of thinking. I do want to highlight that while these ways of knowing and making meaning are qualitative in nature, artists must also use quantitative relationships when developing works of art. For example, visual artists must know and understand color relationships in order to achieve unified compositions. Musicians must know and understand sound relationships between instruments in order to achieve balance. Dancers must know and understand spatial relationships in order to execute choreography. These relationships continue to unfold throughout the creative process. And now we will begin our presentation for the fine and performing arts, starting with the visual arts. The tweets here show our youngest artists experimenting with a variety of mediums and tools, documenting their observations, drawing conclusions based on their observations, and reflecting on their learning in their sketchbooks. The video I'm going to show you shows a middle school student's artist's thinking, the evolution of her thinking during her artistic process. Her process demonstrates that she has applied a variety of methods and approaches in creating her work. Oh, it's not sorry. Sorry.
We started this project by using our textbook, and we can probably compare our artwork. So we started by practicing, by picturing a student's artwork and recreating it. Then we took master artworks and tried to recreate them to create better compositions. I had the lighter areas to contrast the darker areas, where I then decided to create some so I used one line to almost replicate what I had, so I made it clear what I cut out. And I soon noticed that some lines seemed like they were almost on top of one another. So I smudged the lines to try and create like same depth within the piece.
The next video I'm going to show you. Oh, okay. Thank you. The next video is an advanced placement high school student discussing her plans to design and construct chairs as part of her sustained investigations. Her process shows that she is experimenting, innovating, and taking risk to pursue ideas. And now we're going to move on to the music department. In this video, our youngest trumpet players identify and discuss strategies that will support them in improving their performance. You're in for a super treat.
Something you do before you even play the song. Mason?
You can like see like the letters.
Excellent. Good. Thank you.
Following this video, you will see and hear middle school musicians problem finding and problem solving musical challenges. They work collaboratively to develop criteria and provide feedback to evaluate the accuracy of their performance.
Dynamics counting. Which one is more important? What else? E signature, right? Go to the very easy and right? E signature, right? 1, 2, 3. So that's like a while since top 7 needed, and then on the crescendo, that's the forte at the end, the leading forte, but the second the
And as a result of the focus on the problem solving and the thinking and the reflective practices, by the time our musicians reach the high school, they are able to refine their performance. And next, I want to share with you our high school strings orchestra contextualizing the concert repertoire. They draw upon universal themes and life understandings to inform their creative expressions. This helps them connect to the piece and to best interpret the composer's intent. I hope you can hear it. And now we're going to move to a new course at the high school, which is our dance course. So thank you for that. So the image on the left shows students developing choreography that represents Maya Angelou's poem, Phenomenon Woman. The image on the right shows an excerpt from a student journal entry in which the student is reflecting on the choreography process and the problem solving and the challenges of choreographing. And finally, I want to share with you a high school dancer, refining her choreography based on feedback provided to her by her peers and her teacher. Let's see if we can get this from the beginning. That all said, it is because of our educators' attention to developing thinkers and problem solvers, the tremendous commitment of our students, our central office leadership, you, the Board of Education, and the community that North Shore students achieve success in the arts. I will leave you with a quote from my favorite education philosopher, John Dewey. He summed it up really well when he wrote, "Ideas need to be compressed in order to be expressed." On that note, I will turn the mic over to Dr. Titone to share with you how students in AP and IP courses continue to bring John Dewey's ideas to action.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? When students enter their final years with us in the North Shore School District, they have the opportunity to challenge themselves through rigorous coursework that requires real-world application of content knowledge and skills, deep thinking, and problem solving in AP and IB courses. In order to highlight this work and the outcomes of our students in the advanced courses, we look to the internal assessments and extended essays that our IB students have produced. Internal assessments are those that are embedded in the curriculum, such as a project, essay, presentation, which is graded by the teacher for every student in an IB course. These are done in a long process over time. Extended essays are the culmination of an IB diploma candidate's research, passion, and determination as they complete a 4,000-word research paper in the field of their choice. These assessments provide an outlet for deep analysis and evaluation in each subject area. To get there, each course incorporates approaches to teaching and learning. Those include teaching that is based on inquiry, focused on conceptual understanding, developed in local and global contexts, focused on effective teamwork and collaboration, differentiated and informed by assessment. Learning incorporates thinking, communication, social, self-management, and research skills. Through a process of planning, researching, and problem solving, students are able to communicate orally, written, or through that which they have made with their own hands, a product that reflects deep thinking and problem solving in each respective content area. In the sciences, through advanced courses in the sciences, students are able to become critically aware as global citizens of the ethical implications of using science and technology. They appreciate scientific study and creativity within a global context through stimulating and challenging opportunities. Students develop a critical awareness of the need for and the value of effective collaboration and communication during scientific activities. Learners act as a scientist, perhaps as an anticipation as a future engineer or doctor. In biology, physics, computer science, and chemistry, students run experiments and conduct data analyses as part of their assessment. Here on our feed, you will see a select number of internal assessments and extended essays from our students. For example, in biology, the pulmonary functions of firefighters, of which a student had a personal connection. In physics, an investigation into the most durable iPhone case, rubber, plastic, leather, according to the impulse momentum theorem. The winner was rubber, by the way. Here we see another slide from the Group 4 Science Exploration Day, when our kindergartners from the elementary schools come up here to meet with our high school students. And students across the sciences engage with the young learners to teach them how your heart rate might change by a different dance move, how a Skittle responds in a chemical reaction to milk, what a sound wave looks like, and testing out the robot. Through teacher guidance, students learn to appreciate scientific and mathematical study and creativity within a global context through stimulating and challenging opportunities. Each year, we receive feedback that is incorporated into our practices and supervision, aligning teaching and learning with the highest level available to students. We work to evolve as we serve our students, building their thinking skills, guiding deeper application and analysis. By building in a process that incorporates diagrams or sketch notes, students are able to grow in their thinking and problem solving. As we reflect on our results each year, we focus on areas of improvement as a team. Moving over to math. Acting as mathematicians, students in IB Math SL and Math Studies courses transfer and apply the domains of mathematics into real-world contexts, using statistical analysis and mathematical reasoning. In advanced math courses, students implement processes, explore patterns, learn to justify, communicate, and notate as they problem solve in AP Calculus, AP Statistics, and IB Maths. By going deep into the multiple domains of math, students in IB courses develop logical, critical, and creative thinking skills, patience and persistence, employ and refine their powers of abstraction and generalization, apply and transfer their skills to alternative situation, or other areas of knowledge for future development. For example, on our Twitter feed, in Math SL, students studying derivatives in real-life contexts and how derivatives can describe physical phenomena. In Math Studies, a statistical analysis of how music genres affect the memory of high school students. Also, our students performed a service project in which they created math review videos in vectors. This was in the Math SL. These were from Math SL students as part of their CAS project, their Creativity Activity Service, as diploma candidates, in which they left these review students for later students behind. Last but not least, the arts. Through the process of thinking and problem solving in the fine and performing arts, this leads to a product of a portfolio and exhibit. In advanced art courses, students inquire and investigate, make art through practice, experimentation, revision, and communicate ideas about art and design through a reflective and collaborative process. In IB arts classes, including theater, music, and the new visual arts course, students aim to become informed, reflective, and critical practitioners in the arts. They make links through research, they develop perceptual and analytical skills, explore and value the diversity of arts across time, places, and cultures. They understand and engage in the processes of transforming their ideas into action. For example, here you can see our work from our students on the left in the IB Visual Arts. This is part of their process portfolio in which they experiment, testing out different ideas with different mediums, different brushes, for example. And on the right, this is a student's exhibition at the end of their AP Drawing and Painting class. Here, going into theater and music, you'll see a sample of what one of our students did for their musical links investigation in the IB music class last year, in which they connected the rhythm and melody of two songs which they chose. Finally, this was another service project from one of our students last year who had a passion for the arts and also a love of language, so she left this beautiful mural behind for students to enjoy. As students synthesize their learning at the highest level in our high school through advanced placement and interdisciplinary international baccalaureate courses, they connect their learning through authentic engagements among a global context. North Shore students are empowered as they transfer their knowledge and skills from the classroom to the real world through effort and courage in authentic assessment.
Just want to thank everyone for your hard work on this, and just wanted to add a couple of points. This last part of the presentation was descriptive, and so I certainly don't want to give the impression that we're not thinking about also the critical self-reflection that we all do, and every administrator does that, working with the directors. The challenge sometimes is to think about how do we collapse those goals into those that have the highest impact. And we talked a lot as a group about the Pareto principle and focusing on those high impact goals for clarity and to maximize impact. And just, I think focusing on process, thinking and problem solving, but all of the SVOs will have a high impact. We're going to talk more about the SVO work and the status of that on January 23rd. But some other areas too that we have focused on and talked about is, in terms of gap closing and equity, incorporating a universal design framework in all curriculum work. That's something that we're moving towards. Focusing on the transfer of learning in all classes and teaching and learning. Looking to expand opportunities, not just elective opportunities, but assured opportunities, especially in STEM. And I know that Dahlia is working on really shaking up what music means, especially at the secondary level, other non-instrumental opportunities for fine and performing arts. And we're doing this in a democratic way. We have a number of district committees that are committed to this work. The RTI committee, the STEAM task force, the teaching and learning committee. We're conducting the external math review this year, and also the IB 5-year self-study. So we do have a number of processes in action to continue this reflection, and we look forward to updating you through my bi-monthly updates and in our report next year. Thank you.
Thank you. We really cannot thank you enough for not just the obvious work that went into the presentation, but obviously the work that you've all done over the course of this year that got us to the point where we could see the fantastic work their students are achieving. And I just want to point out that we were provided with reams of data on student achievement. In case anyone's in doubt, we have every test every child has ever taken, and we have looked at it in every possible configuration. And I mean that, sincerely, like what tests have they taken? What does it mean? Opt-out rate? Are there gaps between different kinds of groups of students? Where are we doing well? Where are the trends? And what do we need to do next? But I don't think we've ever had as deep and as clear a look into the classrooms in our schools as we had with this report. These photos and visuals, and I mean, I have children in the schools. I have every reason to believe that, I have some sense of what's going on. But I really thought this was an incredibly effective way to communicate what school is like every day for our children. And I can't thank you enough for that. I thought that was incredibly powerful. Thank you. And with that, trustees, thank yous, comments, questions of any kind. If you
thank you all very much. That was really excellent, and I want to thank you for your leadership because, in looking over these volumes of data, it's obvious we are moving forward, and it's great to see this happening. I have a couple of specific things. For Mr. Minchell to begin with, I like what's happening in terms of the NGSS initiatives that you have here. Do you see, in terms of standardized testing, is the state finally moving more in that direction? Obviously the results from last year were good, so we're doing the right things, but from my perspective, it seems like the state's always lagging behind.
Well, I like to say that the 6th and 7th grade right now are the ones in the trenches in terms of really leading the way with the practices and the changes, because they don't have that state assessment at the end of the year. But I am happy to say, if you believe the state, which I really believe in, I don't have a reason not to. It looks like the current 6th grade will be the first class when they get to 9th grade taking the new earth science assessment. And the current 5th grade will be the first ones taking the living environment. And then every year after that, there'll be chemistry and physics. So we really have no reason to think that that's not going to happen. But we are advancing the curriculum to NGSS as best we can. We don't want to obviously see our test scores, go down because of implementation of a new way of teaching. As long as the assessments are staying the same, we do have to cover that curriculum. Sure. But I'm very proud of the willingness of our teachers to really adopt this new way of looking at teaching that old curriculum, which will only make the new curriculum that much more powerful when the new assessments hit.
Very good, thank you. I have a number of questions, but let other people speak first.
Tim, do you have something?
Sure. I have a few
Questions. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was very interesting. It was excellent. I just with regarding the IB program, in terms of enrollment in the diploma program, what is the what's the enrollment this year? How does that compare to previous years? Is it going up, down, stable?
Over the past couple of years, we have had a decrease slightly, but this current senior class, we have 12 students that are still full diploma candidates. That is in comparison to last year, we had 33. I'm very proud to say that 100% of those students did obtain the IB diploma as a candidate upon their graduation. Over the summer, they did find out they all obtained the diploma, which was a huge accomplishment compared to the global statistic. Our students across the board are very successful in the IB classes, so I'm hoping that does inspire future students to ensure themselves that they can be successful in this program. The current junior class has 25 students in there. And so we have our interest meeting on Tuesday night next week. I just did the presentations for our sophomores, and I hope that it continues to grow because it's important that our students know that it is an accessible program and it is something where all students can thrive.
Okay. In terms of, I mean, I'm sure you talk to students fairly frequently in the program. In terms of pressure that they're feeling, I know that's come up every year. Is that something that you're continuing to see and students struggling with the workload?
I can confidently say that it's gotten better in my time here. What I'm seeing right now is that the seniors are very stressed with college applications and didn't anticipate quite how difficult that would be. That was a little unexpected for them. But across the board, I am hearing less and less of students burdened by their workload because our teachers are so flexible that if the students bring up an issue to me or directly to their teacher, we rework the burden of their homework, of their assessments across the board. And we do keep a running calendar year after year to ensure that our larger assessments, those internal assessments that are embedded in the curriculum, are spaced out for our students. So we did take a look at the balance of that over 2-year courses to ensure that there is a better balance and not everything put into senior year or only junior year, to make sure that there's a better balance across the 2 years.
So those internal assessments, that's required by IB?
Yes.
Those types of assessments. Because one thing, and I've brought this issue up from the audience a few times in the past, and I think last year from here, and that is urging a discussion with the teachers and administration about having testing days to relieve pressure on students. It's something that we do at the school where I teach. My testing day is Wednesday, social studies, math is Monday, science is Tuesday, and it's spread out over the course of the week. We rotate it from year to year, and it takes a lot of pressure off students. And I'm in a very, very competitive school, and it's one way of relieving that pressure. And I would urge administrators and teachers to have that conversation because I think it works. I guess I'll follow Rich's lead, and I'll let other people ask questions. And then I did have a couple of more questions, but move on.
Trustees, do you have any questions?
I'm ready to rock. I'm going to admit that last night, when I started diving into the data, and I'm like, I'm not going to survive the night by continuing looking at the data, I went onto the Twitter and I got myself a whole pre-presentation, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, especially the art conversations, watching the children and their music. We need to do that more, and I think the Twitter presentation was great. So I know you had a little doubts at the beginning. It really kept me engaged last night. And then I went back to the data. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that.
It was an internet process.
Yeah, it was amazing, and I did join that Twitter handle. So someone needs to prove me if I'm allowed. Yeah. Okay. So whoever is in charge of that. It was great. I have only a couple of questions. So, at the elementary level, I know they have STEAM. It's STEAM classes, and there's a STEAM educators. How much time is actually spent, either in a 6-day cycle or in a 5-day? How is spent just doing those? Just STEAM.
And you mean really like not
No, like, that enrichment, program, yep.
Sure. In addition to our regular math and science
Yes.
instruction, students have 4 modules of STEAM over the course of the year.
Okay.
And those are 4 sessions each. So it's 16 sessions.
Oh.
8 of those are in engineering design with Ms. Kay, and 8 of those are in computer science with Mr. Bridgewood. In addition, we also build in recess clubs, so kids who want to dive in more deeply can come during recess to do more exploration. And then we've also added after-school clubs, so kids can be part of the Wonder League, they can be part of
First
the,
Lego.
Design Squad, computer-assisted design. So we're trying to, without imposing too much on the school day, just expand opportunities.
Right, because we will be having the conversation about how our time is utilized in the
Absolutely.
classroom. So that's very good to know. So that's in addition to, and so how much science instruction? So pulling that out from
Sure.
STEAM and the,
In each grade level, there are 3 units of science, and roughly there would be about 15 to 18 lessons in each of those units of study. So it isn't necessarily a period during the day, but there's a fall unit, a winter unit, and a spring unit in each grade level.
okay, I'm going to ask the question about equity. And, you know, there was some data that I did digest about the proficiency and mastery levels that our special ed children are at right now. How are we looking at addressing that, or is that a premature question? I see the data is great in terms of proficiency. I'm concerned about their mastery when they leave here. And some children really have some amazing strengths and talents, and how are we utilizing the strengths and talents of our children who have special needs to harness those and get them to the mastery level?
I think what Chris alluded to, and I'll defer to anyone else who would like to add on, one of the things we're looking at is moving beyond regular differentiation towards universal design for learning and personalization of instruction, and really digging into, like you said, what each student's strengths are and how can we leverage those strengths to get them to learn more deeply and to move them towards deeper understanding of the content, and then that'll translate into higher mastery rates.
Right. Strengths perspective is, I think, key here. I just want to throw out the art lessons and the advanced IP art and the regular curriculum to me is incredible, the way these students are integrating, and a lot of the lessons, regardless of what the interest of a particular student is, whether it's humanities or science, the cross-disciplinary skills they bring to each class is extraordinary. It's extraordinary, and this is what we really want, I think, our students to leave here with. And it's great to see that this is going on, and they're able to articulate and think through and defend their research, defend their data in terms of the claims they're making. And that's in any discipline, quite frankly. So I see a lot of patent holders, I think, in the future from North Shore. Thank you so much. That was very, very good. Mm-hmm.
You know, the gold standard 25 years ago for differentiation was that we got models and strategies driven.
Mhm.
A little overly simplistic now in hindsight.
Mhm.
UCL, University of Design, is brain-based and strength-based.
Mhm.
It's very complicated to implement, and so that's why we feel curriculum, mapping, training is a great place to start. But then I also want to bring up the training, the PD that Chris Marino is leading, the special education department, which Gloria Wilson on precision of goals, the work that he's also doing in our RPI task force, that will have an impact on this as well, I think, on that performance. And then also the co-teacher training that as well.
Right. Thanks.
Trustee?
Sure. I too want to thank you for a strong presentation and the backup information. We have spent a lot of time here talking about, while we appreciate the individual things that are going on in each of the buildings, and the silos, so to speak, we have spent a lot of time trying to think of the progression of students from the K through 12. And so Dolly had the easiest task with the trumpeters to sort of, show us some of those. But that's a good way to see it. So while we know the good things that are happening, good things that are happening in each of the individual buildings, seeing the movement in the arts, but also across all of these as the data backs up, is a new lens through which to see it. So I appreciate that. I wanted to ask Dr. Titone, we've had, as you know, a lot of discussion in this community about the implementation of the IB program, I think of it as the sleeve, where it's sort of the AP examination and preparation within the overall IB course. And I think both from a community unrest perspective and from those testing perspectives, we're improving beyond any question. So I wanted to ask you, what are you currently looking at, and what are the things that you're going to be looking at to continue that implementation, to continue making it work smoothly, with, again, an eye toward student performance, student outcomes, and also student stress along the way?
So I think if you look at each of the subject areas, we do have particular areas where we're like skyrocketing way, way, way beyond the global average.
Yes.
And then there are some where we're much closer. And that's where I think we have room to grow. And so, for example, in an AP exam, we see our feedback on our multiple choice and we see, are we above or beyond the state or global mean? And in some particular subject areas, like a certain subject, certain topic within that multiple choice, we do see where we have room to grow. And the same applies with the free response questions on AP exams as well. Those are released to the students, and so we implement those in the classroom to practice, to improve. And we get that feedback as well from the College Board each year to see where our room is. In IB, the same thing happens, where we see where our discrepancies may have been or where our strengths were. And then we also get feedback on an individual basis for our teams of teachers that give us feedback to say, were we appropriate, were we generous, were we too harsh, and a full narrative to say, this would be a better way to coach your students. And we take those into team meetings together with our teachers, everybody on board, anyone that teaches that subject area, and leadership as well, to address what are we doing that's working, what can we do to keep supporting that, and how can we support to move this forward.
So you can actually see not just the end result scores, but also from digging in that, yes, there are certain subject areas where maybe, there's more room for improvement, but even within the areas where we have high scores, we can break down the type of questioning or the type of thinking more appropriately, again, where our students could use more or less attention.
Right, and even from year to year, like in some subject areas, we might be improving on the holistic score, but there may have been one component where we actually went down. Overall, we did better, but there may be a particular
So they can
where
break
we
that
can
down.
improve.
That's great. Thank you.
Trustee Galati, do you want to?
Sure, okay. Referring to the IB program, I know that many of the courses are co-seated in terms of IB AP, and the results are improving. I was just wondering, in terms of our math program, why that's not a consideration? Why are we not offering HL Math?
So it's actually an interesting statistic that we just heard today, that only 15% of all the IB programs out there are students challenging the HL Maths, because it is such a rigorous and demanding course. However, both of the current math courses that exist as they stand today will be shifting to close that gap, because right now there seems to be a big discrepancy between math studies and math SL. And so in conversation with the university, with the demands of students as they go on to engineering or humanities fields, there's a gap to be closed. And so the curriculum is being redone for September to address those needs of our students.
Thank you.
Add to that?
Can I guess I'll continue?
Continue when you're finished.
Thank
we'll
you.
let Trustee Madden continue.
I want to comment on how happy I am about the dance program. I think it's wonderful that this was initiated this year, and I'm hoping that it's going to be growing. And I guess my question is, what are we doing to foster its growth?
Well, I'm working presently with
Mr. Cousins and Mr. Dennis with Dr. Giarizzo and Zublionis to look at ways and paths to grow the program. So we are actually talking about it, and we do have plans, looking for at the middle school and adding an additional course at the high school.
Very-
How many kids do you have involved in that?
Uh,
First
four-
of all, thank you very much for the presentation.
We have 14 at the moment.
And they are, is that, are they taking that as a physical education credit, or is that in addition to?
We're very creative, and we offered it as a 0.5 art credit, elective credit, and a 0.5 PE credit.
That's interesting,
And it-
that young woman is phenomenal.
Yes, it's going very well. We're very happy with, the students are enjoying this immensely, and there's really a lot of learning that's going on. They're not just dancing, they're physically training as well. A lot of core work, Joanna, and a lot of interdisciplinary work, a lot of, a lot of collaboration goes into dancing, understanding spatial relationships, I'm really happy with it, very thrilled.
How many female students do you have?
Well, we have to work on that. Right now we have one male and the rest are female. And we have,
And is this a modern dance experience, or is it?
we are offering all across, because it's an introductory course. So we're doing modern, we're doing contemporary, we have ballet, a unit on ballet, and we have a unit on global dancing. So it's a little bit of everything because it's an introductory course. But we're looking for our secondary course to be something that students who are a little bit more advanced can focus a little bit more. So we're thinking we're going to offer a studio. We're proposing to offer a studio in dance course. I don't want to get ahead of myself here.
And choreography as well?
Yes, hopefully, eventually, yes.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a couple more questions. Dr. Zublionis, you'd mentioned the learning rate, and that we were the highest. Is that based on standardized scores?
It is based on standardized scores, but they look at them differently. Rather than looking at, for example, grade 3 in 2015, grade 3 in 2016, they look at how a cohort grows from one grade to the next.
Okay.
And actually, in the data warehouse now, there's a report. So in the report that you were sent, I kind of put those two pieces together to show cohort growth. So it is still standardized test oriented, but it looks at it in a more dynamic way. And if you go onto that website, what you'll see is they also plot that along affluence resource lines as well. So of course, when I first looked at the site, I jumped to all the way to the left, to the lowest, gross income in the area, and the highest achievement. That's just a really curious
Right.
to look at and to delve into qualitatively. What are those schools doing that are less research so highly? It could be in that case that there's test prep going on. So there are limitations to that, but it is a unique metric that will just growth over time of the same group.
So it's looking at the aggregate. It's not looking at students individually.
Correct.
Right. Okay. And that. Okay.
That's another limitation. Yeah.
Okay. I just had a question about music, and it just occurred to me. Is it now students are pulled out of their classes for band instrument instruction or choral instruction? Is that typical in high schools and in middle schools? I know in my school it's not done. I don't know when they do it, but at some point they do it. But and I'm just wondering if that's ever been discussed.
It varies throughout districts. Some districts have pull-out lessons and some don't. We've chose to have them here because during the lesson groups is where they really have that time to really hone their own skills, that one-on-one time. But it's also the opportunity for them to work within their section to harmonize, to balance, and to really learn how to listen to each other and to play together successfully. And that's not something that can be achieved in the rehearsal time, which is the ensemble period.
So is that once a week that they would have?
Yes.
They would be pulled out?
So students get pulled out once a week, but they're not allowed to be pulled out from the same class during the quarter.
Okay,
So it rotates.
I see.
Elementary level, I just wanted to say, we built that into the color team schedule that we have in 3 through 5, so that it's actually part of their special block. So, but that's only for grades 3
Right.
through 5.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Trustees?
Two real quickies. Number one, the homework policy is being implemented this year, so these results don't reflect anything that's been undertaken under the new policy, correct? So we'll see next year, stay tuned, any effect positively, negatively, as well on student stress and the other factors that are taken into account with that. The other thing I wanted to ask, just curious, in the middle school, students are band or chorus, not both. Will that change potentially with the bond work?
Would you mean enrollment?
I mean, the opportunity, if suddenly we have 2 practice studios, they could be done at different times.
Well, that would certainly open up the scheduling,
Yeah.
a schedule a little bit, but students can still opt to, they can still do both.
They can still do both. They
Yes.
don't meet at the same time.
They do both. The band students meet during the day. If you do both,
Okay.
you are with the band during the day, and then we offer the opportunity for
The
students to do it
after-school.
after school.
Gotcha,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was only going to add that Tim brought it up, but I did want to highlight, because it was earlier on, that the growth rate data is incredibly interesting. And I was curious, I mean, I think it's important, and I think that was interesting, and I don't know how much we've been able to look at it, but did the growth rate data inform any thinking about the future that we didn't get a chance to discuss in this? I was just wondering if you guys had any more thoughts about what that meant or where we should go.
Well, it's really interesting because over the summer, when we had our retreat, we talked about the type of data we were looking at and the comparative measures of where we rank, which we included. But perhaps we should look beyond to growth-oriented data and how, as a test of our system, how are we moving students? And so I think it's the beginning of looking for more measures like that, comparing ourselves to ourselves and looking at how any student, from where they are, how we are moving. It's a natural part of the RTI process, and it's also, I think, the most important question to ask in a classroom is how we students respond. So I think we're at the point now where we're looking, kind of fascinated by that set of data and how do we have measures within our own system to produce that type of data in more individualistic ways, more specific.
Thank you.
Thank you all
We're
very.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, like-
Thank you all very much. We
Thank
we
you.
have been really as a. Thank you for coming. We've been as a system, really trying to think through how to measure these qualitative process skills. How do we demonstrate to you, to ourselves, to our community, that that despite the test data that shows that outcomes are strong, that in the classroom the outcomes are strong as well. And so we're thinking this is one way for us to do it, and Chris and I have been thinking through how to quantify the qualitative data better, because it is hard to do. But stay tuned. We've got some ideas on that. And I want to thank you all very, very much. You put yourselves out there with this. And I really appreciate it. It was very, very well done. Chris, great leadership on this. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's risky, but good.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the, it's like, that's the, if you don't want to just focus on standardized test scores, right, that's one piece, but the other piece is showing that it wasn't test prep either, right, by like what's going on in the classroom is really interesting.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, thank you.
Safe home.
See you tomorrow. Oh, okay, trustees, we are back to our agenda. The next item on our agenda is comments from the public. If anyone is here for public comment, you will approach the podium. You'll give us your name and your town of residence. The trustees are here. We're opening the floor so the trustees can hear any comments or opinions from the public that you feel we should hear. Be informed of, please. Name and town of residence.
And just press the little button until it lights up. Oh, you got it? Okay, good.
Really very short. Okay. So my name's Sally Mailer. I'm a resident of Glen Head, and I have children in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. President, board members, trustees, Dr. Chirizo, I want to thank you for your service to this wonderful school district and to our community. I'm here to raise the tutoring policy number 4452, which was amended in August 27th of this year, and it was amended to read that coaches and or trainers shall not provide private professional services and or private coaching to any athlete within the sport they coach, regardless of the level of the athlete or coach. So on behalf of some of the current players of some sports, which are here tonight, and if they can get a late pass for school tomorrow, that would be great, and also some of the parents, I'd like to ask for the board's consideration of revisiting this clause of the policy. I don't believe it's aligned with any of the three following things. The board's tagline of investing today for our children of tomorrow. One of the key responsibilities of the board and superintendent to act only in the best interests of the students. Or even number 3, the high school mission statement to nurture and enrich our students' natural delight in learning and in the powers of mind and body. So this policy change could and does affect all sports. I'm personally aware that it will impact field hockey program of the school district because I actually have 2 of my 3 children are actually participating in this. And specifically as a reference point to talk about Coach John DeLiso. John had coached our middle school team last year and coached the varsity team this school year. And one of the things that drew me to his club, Lasting Legacy, is actually their non-for-profit status, and it's the actual only non-for-profit field hockey club in New York. It was actually founded, it was the dream of a young girl, which was John's daughter, to give more opportunity for field hockey players to play on Long Island. So that's how it was created. And looking at the caliber and impact that the coach specifically for field hockey, but recognizing other sports are impacted, looking at the field hockey record, last year in the middle school we had a squad of 23 players and a perfect 9-0 record. And this school year there was over 30 players in the middle school squad, so that increased about 30%. Some of you will be more exact on that number. And we really could have fielded 2 teams. So it's really been a great growth because of the success last year. This year, our varsity team started 0-3 the season. They won their next 9 games, and they achieved conference championship, which is something North Shore hasn't done for 8 years. Equally, one of our seniors scored 13 goals and got 7 assists and came in second in the county, and she only came in second by a player from Locust Valley School District who is a scholar athlete and also a member of Lasting Legacy Club who had 5 goals and 17 assists. 2 of our graduating varsity players are now considering continuing playing college level field hockey this year, next year, because of the individual growth this past season. And 4 out of 8 of Nassau County All-State recipients are Lasting Legacy players. So again, all of those talk to the caliber of the coach in this case. And surely we want more coaches of this kind of caliber in our school district, helping us to achieve our collective goals. And surely isn't that why he was hired in the first place? Our children benefit more from having this caliber of coach teaching them 5 or 6 days a week through one sports season versus 1 day a week of private coaching. In the case of field hockey, it's a year-round sport, yet the policy disadvantages those students who want to continue their passion throughout the year and many through to college. And those students who choose to invest their own time in this passion all year round provides benefits when they come to play at school during the single season that we support field hockey as the example. And wouldn't it be great to have another sport that North Shore excels at? So if the decision to change the policy was made to try and address financial inequities, so those that can afford versus those that can't afford coaching, that's more of economic inequalities down to society. It's not the school district responsible to level that economic playing field. It can instead give all our kids the best opportunity by continuing to hire the best caliber teachers and coaches for our kids. If the decision was made to ensure fairness of students and playing time, I believe that oversight or due process could be put in place for selection of teams and playing time, etc. If the decision was made to avoid legal claims of favoritism, fair playing time, etc., surely the forms that we all sign to allow our kids to play sports could be amended to address this. Just a few thoughts. But in addition, I've never seen any favoritism applied to any of the team sports that my kids have played on, field hockey, volleyball, other sports as well. And specifically with Coach John, I know and have seen that with him, it's all about the athlete's commitment, their attitude, and their ability. We aren't dealing with intramural sports at the community centre. This is students at their highest level of learning who are preparing for college and their future. So let's not penalise or hinder an entire sports programme, but find a way to address any concerns and focus our attention on these kids and their future. I'd like to thank you for that consideration. I have a copy of this, if I may just leave that with you for the record. And congratulations on the bond vote. I hope we get new chairs to this library.
Thank you. Do we have additional people for public comment?
My name is Michael Conklin, Greenvale resident, parent of 4 North Shore students, 2 graduates already. I'm the VP of the North Shore Athletics Booster Club. On this subject, I understand where it came out of the tutorial program, and before I start, I want to thank the superintendent. He gave some time earlier in the today. We had a conversation, and he kind of gave me a little guidance on where we were moving. I just figured I would speak for a moment anyway.
You're welcome.
In the past, I had no problem getting tutors. Okay, the tutors were easy to find. I had my kids go for $2.75 an hour so they could do better on their SAT. There were tutors all over the place willing to do that. These coaches that coach these travel teams, there's only 3 travel teams on Long Island. You have East End, out past Riverhead. You have one out of Sachem, which is Strong Island. And you have John's team, Lasting Legacy. It's the closest one to here. Tutors are a dime a dozen. And I don't want to downplay their role because it's more important than most stuff. But the coaches are few and far between. It would be easier in my situation if I were to take my child out of this school, put her in a private school, and then have her continue to play for the club. That's how hard it is to get the proper coaches. This gentleman is top notch. I mean, they're few and far between. He is one of the only ones that is not for profit. I understand where the rule comes from. I know it's a tough decision, and I know the picture is much broader than this. And I just wanted to point that little bit of information out, that I know you're in a tough position, and I know we're going to look into it further, but it's not just him as the coach. It's the kids and the opportunity that comes afterward. I have an All-American field hockey player at Cornell University. I have another one that plays at the University of Richmond. That doesn't happen without these clubs. As much as we love our sports here and we have great programs, it doesn't happen without them, and it doesn't happen without their contacts. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Mele. I have 4 kids. 2 are graduates, one's in 9th and one's in 11th. I too am here about the field hockey and Coach John, and we love him, and my daughter plays on Lasting Legacy because John asked her to last year, and she was allowed to play for free. We didn't have to pay anything. And this year she can't. And it's not only with John and Lasting Legacy. I had reached out to Christopher Gill. He's a social studies teacher at the middle school. He has an organization called Crease Beast. I guess he was a D1 lacrosse player, and he runs this lacrosse goalie thing. And I emailed him asking if he would give my daughter private lessons. And he wrote back saying he can't because of this new policy. So it's not only field hockey, it's lacrosse too. And there's another teacher here that gave my kids band lessons who can't anymore. And SAT tutors that come out of the English department, we can't use them anymore. And I think it's sad for the children because, you know, these kids know these adults and we're comfortable with them. And why do I have to go look outside my district, you know, for, you know, to pay these people to help? I don't know. No one can, you guys can't answer me, right?
It is
I'm
primarily for us to hear.
Oh, okay, sorry. I just don't understand why something like that would pass. I can't figure it out. Hi, how are you? I haven't seen you since Cliff Elementary School. Okay, bye, everybody.
I will say this, I think after we've heard from everyone, I'd be surprised if the superintendent didn't wish to say a few words about what's behind the policy.
Totally.
But I hope we don't lose Coach John, because honestly, out of all my children and the sports they play, he is the best, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else that wants to speak? Your podium.
My name is Kate. I'm a 9th grader at the high school, and just from like a student and a player's perspective, I was able to play up on varsity. I was welcomed. It was a family, and I know with another coach it would have been the same or similar, but Coach John was very like he was just very accepting. He never favored over anybody. You earned your position on the team. You worked your butt off during tryouts. You worked your butt off during practice, and if you didn't, you were sitting on the bench. There was no favoritism at all. And it's not just going for any sport. I was pulled up as an 8th grader in softball, and no favoritism there ever. And it's just unbelievable to think that like with a program that hasn't been to playoffs or county or conference, it's just unbelievable to think that the opportunity that we have is gonna just go away after a year.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else?
No.
As you can see.
My name is Barbara Nelson. My daughter Emma is a sophomore, and we've also known John outside of school for quite some time. And John is one of the most fair and honest people beyond coaching. He's a fabulous coach, but he is a fair and honest person. And not only does he teach the children their fundamentals and their coaching and their skills of field hockey, but he teaches them life skills. His philosophy is family, then school, and then field hockey. So like like Sally said, you know, he started this club, I think 15 years ago for his daughter, who went on to play in college, and now, but this is his passion. He, I don't know, for those of you that don't know John, but he's a retired teacher himself. He was a life science teacher?
AP Bio.
Yeah, AP Bio teacher. And a successful career behind that, and he recently retired, and he's got his club organization, and he's got North Shore Field Hockey. And he was so excited to come here and to coach the girls. And the truth is, John's gonna take his skills and his passion wherever he goes. I mean, if it doesn't work out for North Shore, somebody else is gonna grab him, and those kids are gonna benefit from his instruction. And it's just a shame that if there's a conflict here at our school, and we're giving up this opportunity, especially for the children, because those are the ones that are gonna be mostly affected by it. You know, John is a fair guy. I've never seen him be anything other than fair here at North Shore, and also, you know, on the pitch outside of North Shore. But yeah, I look at the kids, and my heart goes out to them, because like that's what it's all about, and that's what us as parents, and also the North Shore School District, we've always said, you know, what's in the best interest of the children. And John DeLiso is in the best interest of our children, for sure. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we're going to close public comment.
Okay.
Superintendent?
So thank you all for coming out. I really do appreciate it. I've spoken with a few parents since this issue came up over the past several days. I actually had a meeting with Coach this morning to talk about the specifics around his circumstances. We have some more research to do based on the things that we learned this morning. But the goal of what we set out to do with this policy was to ensure, it started with classroom teachers. And so if you were, the policy precludes your English teacher, your child's English teacher, from providing tutoring services to you outside of school. That would really be improper, right? They give your child a grade. And so that's where the genesis of it started. And in fact, we talked about band and music and the implications of that. And so the guiding principle of this was, how do we, as best we can, as a governing board, set up conditions that obviate for any kind of conflict of interest, any kind of, with sports pay for play, whether it is perceived or real, and someone not making a profit off of families who are in the system, who go to school here. And then decisions are made on the pitch, in the pool, wherever they might be, that impact playing time or being rostered on a team, any of that. What I will be very clear, I was very clear with Coach John this morning when I talked with him. I will be very clear here. There is no concern with Coach John at all. I've heard some of those, Dr. Drizzo, why are you looking to get rid of him? We are not. We've been very pleased with his work, and so this is not about any particular coach. The approach. This is a broad
Right.
any particular sport.
Teacher,
right.
Teacher,
or a
anything.
teacher
This is
or
a
anything.
district-wide policy intended to be consistent.
Right. And so, to the extent that there are circumstances that that we can look at by coach, we will do that. But a coach or a music teacher or a classroom teacher or whomever they are in the system can't make a profit off of families and then be charged with teaching them. And that's just not something that we can have happen. And so we have to think through how that works, right? And the field is an extension of the classroom. It is just learning in a different way and in a different place. So we will, you have my commitment, and the board has my commitment that I am working on this. I've spoken with our school district attorney. We started a conversation about that this afternoon after I met with Coach this morning. We have some more thinking to do about that. And we will, let everybody know. What I've said to everybody is I may, at the end of the day, not be able to come back with a recommendation that you all want, but I will make sure that it is researched and in line with the policy of the board as it currently exists. Okay, that's where I am.
That's where we are.
Okay.
I certainly take him at his word that he will look at it, but we do really appreciate when people take the time to come to a meeting and let us hear firsthand what you're concerned about. I know you're all busy and have things to do and it's late, but so thank you for talking to us.
You're welcome. Go for it.
Yeah, I think that's extremely reasonable because now we're just gonna say motion, second, and vote on a whole bunch of stuff. Good night.
Have a good night, everyone. We'll be in touch.
All right. Action item B, personnel. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor on personnel? Thank you. Action item C is acceptance of the independent audit reports. This is the one from the external auditors. Do I have a motion? Motion. Second? Questions? All in favor? Thank you. Action D is the acceptance of the Sally Hahn Award, which recognizes the district for our outstanding foreign language program, and accepts the prize, I guess, of $1,000.
$1,000.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? Questions?
This
All
was
in favor?
This was all of New York State. We were the award winner for the entire state last year. This is a great award.
It is great. We're all in favor, yes? No, yeah. that's
For
great.
context.
Action E is the acceptance of donations from the Seacliff School PCA to their school for the kindergarten field trip to the planting fields for $455 and to repair and expand the sprinkler system to reach the outdoor garden for $2,000. Do I have a motion? And a second? All in favor? Action F is their approval of the budget transfers. We need to transfer $50,000 to cover legal fees for split properties, etc. All in favor?
Motion. Motion.
It's late. I'm just gonna roll right through it. Wait, so we have the motion in a second. All in favor?
It's not that late.
I don't know. It's been a long week, I feel. Betty, has it been a long week? Action item G is the approval of the hardship eligibility amendments to the North Shore Central School District's 403B retirement plan. This basically changes in the law that require changes in the plan. Do I have a motion? And we have a second. All in favor? Please flip through the several pages of that motion. I'll combine actions H and I, which are contracts related to special education services. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? Questions? All in favor? Thank you, trustees. Action J is IEPs. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? All in favor? Thank you. K is
This is the new bond.
changed.
This is, yes.
It has different wording. I want to say it correctly. So action item K is the bond resolution of the school district. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Does anyone have any questions? All in favor? Thank you. Action L is the approval of the district's professional learning plan. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? Are there questions? All in favor? Must have been a very thorough report. Action item M is to accept the internal claims audit report, which was the subject of our earlier meeting. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Second. Questions? All in favor? We now have our second opportunity for public comments. Any comments from the public? All right, we will close public comment. We will move on to old business. Old business, trustees?
I do have,
You have-
I have one thing,
Okay.
if I may.
Please.
So, just to. Did I bring it? I can speak to it. So we had spoken, I think at our last meeting, about the task force related to the field lighting that the members of the community have asked us to look at. So now that we're beyond the referendum, we said that we would put that together. At the last time we met, it was going to be Trustee Madden, Trustee Russo, Trustee Commander, who were going to join me on that. I've spoken with one of the parents who was spearheading that work. We talked on Wednesday, and so I was going to start putting that task force together. So we'll start reaching out to PE teachers, coaches, community members, the civic associations, students. I could have sworn I brought my list with me, but all told, it will be probably 25 or so folks on the task force. We'll break up into smaller groups. I had hoped that we might be able to get our first meeting before the close of this calendar year. I don't believe that is going to happen.
Everything.
Like life is like, they say life happens. Life has happened in a very significant way. So we're working on that. My expectation is that we'll get this off the ground in the very start of the new year, and then we will start working on the feasibility and some planning and questions and all of that. So stay tuned, but that is very much on our radar, and not quite in process yet, but it will be in process. Yes. Yes.
I don't know whether the civic association in my area would necessarily represent the people who are right on the other side of that fence. I know a couple of people up there, and I just asked them if they're interested to contact you.
Sure.
These are people that would be doing this directly.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I thought we would do was we would have, I'd reach out to the civics for the Promenade section, the Todd Drive section, the Plymouth Drive section. So those are the ones that abut the property. Yeah.
I'm sure that whole group of condos don't necessarily within the civic association.
They may not be, and so.
I'm concerned about because those are the people who are talking about.
Okay. Yeah. So what?
Somehow to reach out to them.
Yeah. So what I would do is I've also was planning on putting some at-large community members on the group as well, because there are just going to be interested folks in this, and so we'll come up with a number and so then we just have to figure out how to reach them. So if you know how to reach them, that's how we, yeah.
The association president, who's still in that role, is a retired athletic director.
Great. All right. So when the time is right, I'll get that directly to you. You can and you can forward that out. That would be terrific. You're welcome.
New business. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, new business, that this became new business. It's old business, but this last meeting I was, I'm not sure I was clear on, is this a travel team that kids are paying into?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is really no different than what we've been talking about with everything else.
Apparently it's organized as a nonprofit, but that doesn't mean you don't pay fees or people don't get paid, right? So, but I don't know.
So he's not getting paid?
So
He could be.
he does not. He reported to me that he does not draw any income from this organization. The way the organization runs, there's and I'm in. Okay. Well, let me tell you how the organization runs, because that's public, right? But I don't want to talk about. We probably ought not to talk
He's
about.
handled the logistics of scheduling, but he doesn't get paid.
No, I'm just getting, I just met with him this morning, so I have, he gave me some information, and I'm gonna follow up on the things that he has shared with me. There's a U10, U12, U14 program, and there is a U16 to U19 program. The fee structure on that varies. So in the winter, they practice for 9 weeks. There is a fee that parents pay that is sounds to me like it is like a pass-through fee to pay the coaches who coach because there are 150 players who are in this program throughout the year.
So this nonprofit is hiring lots of coaches, though, so right. you
Yes.
gotta-
The question is he coaching?
So I don't think we should be talking about the specific personnel matter in the public meeting.
I'm just trying to clarify whether it's a different situation than.
Right, he's saying we would have to clarify that in.
Yeah, I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% sure yet. What I have assured the coach and parents that I've spoken to is that in light of the information I have about his particular circumstances, that I would weigh that against the policy in consultation with council, and then see where that lands. And so we had talked about in this policy. So if a coach was working at a private club, right, that it would be not permissible for them to, like, we'll use tennis as an example, right? So it would not be permissible for that coach or teacher to work with that student and make money off of that. What we said was okay was that coach would then work with the club to say, you don't schedule me to work with North Shore students. And so they can still continue to provide clinics at a private club. They just wouldn't be instructing or coaching North Shore students. What I want to explore is the extent to which that applies here. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, it does.
But I don't know the answer to it. I don't know the answer to it yet. Yeah. Uh-huh. Right. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay.
Other new business? I'm gonna mention a couple things. I got an email that I think to some extent was intended for the entire board that I wanna mention, which was basically, from a parent who is concerned that the state is going to mandate the HPV, I can barely speak, HPV vaccine for school attendance. And like the parents we heard earlier, she would like letters to the state asking them not to make it mandatory for school attendance. And the other thing that I'm gonna mention, we're not having committee reports, but I did wanna let everybody know that, as you all know, the community is very concerned about traffic, and so construction steering did start with even setting up a separate meeting to start really digging through the more recent traffic study very particularly, and we have absolutely no answers for you yet, but we
We're
are
on it.
going to look at it very closely, and we brought in all the traffic study people to start talking about if there were any options or any affordable options.
And we expect to have some more information on that soon, very soon.
It was a good discussion.
Yes, it was.
I think it's interesting. Maybe not in a hopeful way, but it's interesting. Anything else? All right. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Godspeed.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Gio Rizzo, get on your way. Don't dawdle.